everyone. Welcome. I am Christiana Ellis, and if you haven't already heard by the time you watch this, I am planning for Extra Life. What is Extra Life? Well, if you haven't heard of it, check it out. It is an awesome charity where gamers all over the world are going to do 24 hours of gaming and take pledges, just like with a marathon, to benefit children's hospitals. It's a great charity. I've done it 3 years running. It's actually my 5th year because, years before that I actually did video games. But for the last 2 years, what I've done is run a Dungeons and Dragons game. 24 hours of it over 2 days, 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. on both Saturday and Sunday. So this year, I am going to be running that game once again on November 2nd and 3rd, as I mentioned, 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. And so I'm already in the process of organizing that game, getting the players, having them make their characters, and learning the adventure that I'm going to run. And I have a lot more prep to do, so I thought that I would run a stream today to do a little bit of that prep. So, the adventure that I have selected to run this year is the adventure called Orrery of the Wanderer from the Acquisitions Incorporated sourcebook. And this is a really awesome adventure, and I'm excited to run it. Let me just double check, make sure everything's good to go. Is my stream not going? Well, let's just double check that. Okay, yeah, we're going. Okay, good deal. Sorry, my little dashboard hadn't updated for me. I wanted to make sure that I was not broadcasting my voice into the digital void. But, so, if you are not familiar with Acquisitions Incorporated as a brand, it's a Dungeons and Dragons show. It started as a podcast, I believe, and then it emerged to include live shows and other video streams and everything. It is way more famous than me, no question about that. In fact, they've got their own source book. And so the premise, though, if you are not aware, is that it kind of combines humor derived from corporate bureaucracy and business humor, and it combines that with Dungeons and Dragons adventuring. And so the idea is adventuring as a business, a way to make money where you are out there to make a profit, but you have bosses, and there's a large company with a bureaucracy that is designed to help provide you the support and resources and infrastructure you need to adventure efficiently, but in return, of course, you owe them a percentage of any profits you make on your adventuring, and you have bosses and interns and overhead and expenses and paperwork and all of that stuff, which is very fun and silly to add to Dungeons and Dragons campaign. So the book I'm a fan of, so you can find the book, buy it both in hardcover, digital. I've got it on D&D Beyond, however you're going to do that. I'm not sponsored by any of these people, just a fan. So what I'm planning to do for the actual adventure is run the adventure that they've got in here, which is, of course, called Orrery of the Wanderer. But one of the things that I was realizing about that adventure is the party who is going to form their own brand new franchise of Acquisitions Incorporated has certainly lots to do, businesses to run, NPCs to either make deals with or eliminate the competition. They've got opponents and enemies and people who want to get revenge on them for something that they had nothing to do with, but the bosses did, and it's a whole bunch of fun nonsense. But what I thought would be really cool was if there was a competing branch, like another franchise. And there are a couple of other franchises in the adventure, but they are basically just kind of they're not fully formed as part of the adventure. Oh, hey there, Black Dragon, in the chat. I know who you are. But the we have the in the adventure we have a couple of other franchises that the party will interact with in one way or another, but not really as a full functional group. And so I thought it would be really fun to have there be a competing branch that's maybe a little bit further along in being established. And they're not bad guys, they're just aggravating. They're competition, right? It's one of those things where, if you work in a corporate environment and, you have productivity goals and quotas or whatever that come from head office, but you're always getting pitted against, it's like, oh, well, the Red Larch branch, had a 3% higher profits than you last month. So we want to see you do better, that sort of thing, right? And I thought it would be fun to kind of put together, let's build a competing franchise. And so if we go through the book, in the early chapters here, Growing Your Franchise, it has lots of suggestions for like quick start franchise. And so we're going to look at some of those options and figure out, we're not necessarily going to choose the options that they're suggesting, but we're going to use that as a framework to start from. So first of all, the different tiers of franchise are rank 1 settlement, where basically you are licensed to operate in an area that's about 10 miles across. Rank 2, small territory. Rank 3, large territory. Rank 4, limited extraplanar. But of course, it has suggested player levels for those ranks. So levels 1 through 4, you would be a rank 1. 5 through 10, rank 2, and so on. Now, this adventure that is part of this book is a level 1 to 7, I think, adventure. And so the idea would be you would get your franchise, start at rank 1, and then grow to rank 2 as part of the adventure. And so what I'm thinking is that we probably will have this other competing franchise not start at 2, but get to 2 first, right? So I think basically what we're going to have happen is the adventure includes the party getting to the point where they just now have their franchise, right? Where they become a rank 1 franchise as opposed to just being interns and or sub-employees of Acquisitions Incorporated. And so I think at that point, sometime very early on in their process of establishing their rank 1 franchise, we'll have this other branch come and do a site visit. And the premise will be like, they've been going at it a little longer than you have, so maybe they can offer some advice. And basically what'll happen is these people come along and basically be super condescending because they've been rank 1 longer than the party has. And then at some point they'll get to be rank 2 sooner than our player party will. So it's going to be a little bit of a rivalry, try to build in some jealousy there. And of course, we'll see how it goes. I mean, for all I know, the players will just absolutely love this other party and want them to hang out. Or maybe they'll try to hire the employees away. Maybe some of the players will say, maybe we should try to join that franchise instead of being our own. I don't know. We'll see. So in any event, though, let's start with saying this is going to be a rank 1 franchise. Small territory. And according to the book, a rank 1 franchise operates in a settlement. They have a major domo, 2 untrained hirelings, and 1 skilled hireling. They can do 1 task at a time and have a starter headquarters. So a major domo in this game, like the way that works, is the major domo is an NPC who works for the party's franchise and just basically is like the office manager for them. Handles all the correspondence with the home office, deals with overseeing the staff, and deals with the financials to the extent it basically does all of the little bits and bobs of running a business that the player characters probably won't want to handle. And then hirelings, both untrained and skilled hirelings, are something that has always been part of the book. I mean, it's in the player's handbook on how to deal with hirelings. But the idea in this context is that as an Acquisitions Incorporated franchise, you pay a monthly operating cost to home office. And what that gets you is all of these things that we've just listed here. Like, what that operating cost includes is salary and wages for these employees and payment for the headquarters and so on. And so you're paying this every month, but in exchange they are arranging for you to have a place to operate your business in, some employees who can do some things, and so on. So as we look at, and some of this is just explaining some of what I was just explaining here, and then as you advance, you can start having crew, because as you increase your franchise rank, you can have mobile vehicles or even a mobile headquarters. Like you could have your headquarters be on a submersible submarine or something like that, or a battle balloon or something. And then so you would have crew to, crew the ship or whatever. So when it's talking about headquarters features, it's talking about having a group design. So this is something that when we develop the headquarters for the players, they'll decide on a lot of these things, but we're building this competing franchise. And one of the things that I'm going to certainly do during the game is try to keep an eye and an ear out for things that would irritate the player characters specifically. And so I might incorporate some of those sorts of details into this competing franchise, and we'll see how that goes. But so to get us started, let's say starter headquarters. What are some of the examples that they provide here? Like an abandoned lighthouse, a beat-up keelboat, an old tavern, a worn carriage and horses. Those are just some of the examples, right? It's not saying you have to use any of those, but it could be those. And part of the way it it's all handled is it describes that depending on what type of headquarters you have, there's going to be a different amount of operating costs. And so let's say the old tavern was the one that we went with. That would be this settlement enterprise, 120 gold pieces per month. And so that's how that would work. But in the meantime, so let's think about what do we want this initial their starter HQ to be. Well, let's see. I think that there's already a lighthouse in the adventure, so I think we don't want to double up there. And without spoiling exactly where the party is going to end up, at least being given their sort of preliminary offer for where their starter headquarters could be. I think that in order to contrast the way that the headquarters that are shown in the game would work, having a mobile headquarters seems like a good way to go for this this franchise. So it could be a boat, except that they're going to come and visit the city and the party in a landlocked area. So I think it makes more sense for them to have something that could travel overland. So I've got this worn carriage and horses, which we could definitely use. And we got an example here, some artwork of the Acquisitions Incorporated C team, who have kind of a wagon-based mobile headquarters. But let's see. Let's. How can we mix it up a little bit compared to just worn carriage and horses? It could be something where, something along that line, but just unusual enough, and maybe a little bit pretentious. What if, like, yeah, what if it's, I want it to be something kind of obnoxious. And so one of the things that comes to mind for me is when we've seen in old period pieces those sorts of conveyances where it's like a wagon, but it's on poles, and you would have people actually carrying it, like at the front and the back. But instead of it being people, what if it was like specialized little constructs or golems that can only do that, right? So these are not creatures that could be used for other things. All they can do is carry this little thing, but it could be this big, obnoxious, almost, you know, uh, what I'm thinking is like a big RV, but carried, suspended by these specialized clockwork, humanoid figures to carry it along. That seems like it could be fun. So let's do that. I have to come up with what's the name for that type of vehicle. I'm not remembering it off the top of my head. Um, let's Google. Um, Wagon carried on poles. It's no, that's not what it's called. Trevaway. No. See, because wagon is the vehicle carried on poles by people. Litter. Okay, yeah, it's a litter. Okay, it's a big, fancy litter. And I like the idea that it looks fancy and ostentatious in its design, but it's actually not super luxurious, really. It's kind of faux luxurious, where it's gold painted, right? It's not even just actual gold leaf, it's just gold colored paint and that sort of thing. I think that that's kind of fun. And so, like, it'll have, lush red velvet interior that's shown somewhere and that sort of thing. Big fancy litter uh, carried by humanoid clockwork constructs that cannot be detached. Detached, if I could type detached. Okay, extra T there. Okay, cannot be detached. And gold painted. All velvet interior, but worn, smooth, and patched in places. And yeah, so I like that a lot. And what, so, yeah, so I think like functionally in terms of mechanical things, it's going to work essentially like this wagon would, except that instead of, the draft horses, it's constructs. And I think we'd probably balance that they're maybe a little bit slower than horses, but they don't get tired, right? They don't get tired. You don't have to feed them, that sort of thing. So maybe can move, movement, speed, 30 feet, AC. This one's pretty big, so let's say this is an AC 10, and 120 hit points. So that seems pretty good. And this example of the wagon talks about like cargo capacity and so on. And I think that this is going to be a franchise that has 5 adventurers plus all of the various, hirelings right there. So we gotta at least, it's gotta, it's like got room for 10 people, you know, seats 10 people, and has fold out bits like this. It's like a big camper. Has fold out sections for when everybody is going to sleep. It's bedtime. Okay, and can carry, let's say 800 pounds of goods. Like a lot of this is probably not going to come up all that often, but just it's handy to have that. Just if nothing else, if the party wants to get in a sort of pissing match with this franchise in terms of who can do what, it would be nice to have these things sort of ready at hand. Like, what if it turns to a fight, right? Probably that won't happen. I think because I like to think that this rival franchise are not the enemy, right? They're in a lot of ways they're kind of in the same boat as the party. They just think they're better than the party is all, right? Is that they're the overachievers that look down on our party. So let's see. So that's, what, so cosmetic features, all of these would go in at rank 2. So we can decide, like, what are the things that would come into play on rank 2, because we can decide in advance what's going to happen when they get to be rank 2. So they would get cosmetic expansion, transportation, and weapon, would have more room, more people to hire, can do more stuff. So let's see. So the cosmetic features, cosmetic improvement allows them to radically alter the look and feel. So maybe, so a beat up wagon could become a gilded carriage. And so, maybe that's where they actually, at rank 2, they upgrade the interior and exterior to be actually like legit glitzy and luxurious. To actual glitz. I think that's fun. And expansion features, I think what that will do, expansion basically is going to be an extra dimensional fold out thing. It's going to be a whole nother like extra room that's like a pocket dimension. So it's just going to be like, it doesn't look any different from the outside, but from the inside they've just doubled their space. Pocket dimension fold out rooms to double the interior space. I like that, yeah. And then transportation feature, at rank 2, every franchise gives some sort of mobility, but these guys kind of have that already. So let's see. Yeah, they kind of have that already, so I don't think we need to worry about that. Um, Extra dimensional wagon. Look at that. That's actually, oh, the wagon's driver can cause the wagon to teleport the distance of a day's journey. Okay, yeah. So, um, okay. Uh, all right. And then they get a weapon feature. Um, and then I wonder what sort of a weapon feature these folks could have. Um, what if, like I'm looking at uh, it's got the players might agree it would be used to fund the effects of a Bigby's hand. What if, what if it can magically conjure something similar to Bigby's hand, but it would be essentially like a noble who slaps you with their glove? I don't know. Like I at a certain point, like I don't want these guys to like actually be really rich nobles. Like that's not what I'm kind of going for here. What I'm wanting is essentially people who are, the same level as the party, but plus 25%. They're just a little bit farther down that same advancement track. It's also kind of fun if maybe the weapon thing is scavenged from something else, and so it doesn't necessarily have to match the other decor. So let's see. What are some of these other things? What's something that would be in line with this whole theme of we just let's see, choosing from the options in siege equipment. Okay, well, so let's pull that up and look at siege equipment. A ballista, cannon, a cauldron, mangonel, siege tower. Siege tower is, I think, probably a trebuchet. I think let's just give them a ballista. Yeah. So we'll just pull this ballista right out of the Dungeon Master's Guide there. Um, uh, so that they have that unfolds out of the top, and that's all they get. All of that at rank 2. So they won't have that when we first meet them, but even though I'll probably over the course of the adventure, like we'll first meet them when the party is just establishing their own franchise, and then when I'll figure out in the adventure when it makes sense for them to show up again. And I think probably what makes sense is for them to show up again when they are newly ranked 2 and the party is not yet ranked 2. So it's simultaneously like a preview of what they have to look forward to, like how cool it's going to be when they're ranked 2, but it's also like, oh, we're going to rub it in your face that we're ranked 2 and you're not, that sort of thing. And so that means that they would show up again like when the party's level 4, not yet level 5. And maybe have some messages going back and forth in the meantime. So yeah, let's talk about that. Let's see, I got extra rows now from the copy and paste. Don't want to keep just doing. Okay. All right. Well, hang on. Let's try this. There we go. There we go. Okay. Weird formatting. All right. So what's next then? We've got their frank their we've got their headquarters handled. So headquarters features, we've just talked about that. Um, secret features, those are going to be at rank 4, so that's ahead of time. Franchise costs. So baseline costs, if they've got horse-drawn carriage or wagon, would normally be 15 gold pieces per month, but this is obviously like a fancy wagon. So I think it makes more sense that it would certainly be higher than this, but maybe not as much as, like you can buy a nice RV for a lot less money than you can buy even a small house, right? Even a house of equivalent size, because there's no like land involved. And so I think in this case, let's say that their franchise costs baseline, so we'll make it significantly more than a standard wagon. Oh, hello, welcome. We're discussing some a rival franchise of adventurers that our party is going to face. So this party with this type of headquarters is going to have, let's say, their baseline costs are 50 gold per month, and that's going to be less than our party is going to have, assuming that they take the initially offered headquarters. So they may want to show off why they think. So we have Spence in the chat who is asking. She's creating a player that a character that is a rival intern. This is not from that organization. This is going to be another Acquisitions Incorporated franchise that is basically it's just like a competing branch within the same organization. And so they're not enemies exactly, but they certainly are competition. So at this point, the franchise rank multiplier, it comes from the franchise advancement table that we had up at the beginning here, which was right here. So once they're at rank 2, if assuming they don't change their current, if they don't change their headquarters, and we just talked about how they're going to keep the same one but enhance it, it would become 75. And a lot of this again is not necessarily going to become relevant in our adventure, but it's also good practice for setting up how it's going to work for our party, right? So, franchise costs. And so we have the baseline costs, but what we also have is that the Acquisitions Incorporated takes a percentage of the overall business performance. And so every month you perform the downtime running a business activity to determine how much money you made other than just selling loot you found. And so you might have to chip in some of the extra loot you found to pay it once a month, or it may be that your staff is so efficient that you get extra money. You'll have to see, and that might be make it more of a motivation for the various players to try to make sure that the hirings have the appropriate skills and so on. But in the event, that's not stuff we need to handle right now. So let's talk about company positions. This is something that once the party has their own franchise, which is not right at the beginning, there's going to be all of these different roles that people can fill within their own franchise organization. And these are things like, cartographer, decisionist, documancer, hordes person, loremonger, obviator, occultant, and secretarian. And so obviously all of these are things that, some of them are more obvious than others in terms of having analogs to real world things, and others are more directly tied to the idea that this is fantasy adventuring. But the party is going to end up each choosing one of those roles for each character. But so let's decide. You know what? I'm going to just roll 5 times until I get until I get 5 different unique positions here, and that's what we'll have. So let's see, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I'm going to roll a d8 5 times, and basically until I get 5 different numbers. So 8. So we're going to have a secretarian. 4. That's going to be a hordes person. That's a duplicate 4. So that's a 1. Cartographer. 7. Occultant. That would be a duplicate 8. Duplicate 7. 3. So that's a Documancer. So I think in sort of starting to build each of these actual characters, we're going to look at what each of those roles does and decide how it goes from there. Notably, we don't have a decisionist, which in the role in that is basically what they get to do is just whenever the party needs to vote on something, they get to vote twice. So it's kind of like the leader, but it's also really more just like when the party is stuck between 2 options and they just can't make up their minds, it's the decisionist's job to just pick one and say, nope, that's what it is. We're doing that. But we don't have one of those, so it's not obvious necessarily. If we had one, it might be easy to say that's going to be the leader. But let's see. So let's look at secretarian first. Secretarian, essential functions is to extract information and assess the strengths and weaknesses of others. So what do you get as a rank 1 secretarian? Well, you gain proficiency with a gaming set, a musical instrument, or disguise kit. Head office also grants you the use of a toolkit for your chosen proficiency, a collection of sales brochures, set of business cards, a metal bell, and a set of fine clothes. And at rank 1, you also get a sending stone that lets you basically have communication with home office whenever you want. And so that sounds like, you get additional stuff later as you level up to different ranks of the franchise. But so to begin with, this is someone who would be, probably work. It's like marketing, right? This is sort of the marketing group, how do we manage the sales and the the marketing for the franchise. So let's think about what might be fun for a marketing person for this franchise. I think, it's certainly something that's been done, but I kind of like the idea. There's a great Twitter account called Conan the Salaryman, which is basically just like Conan the Barbarian type storytelling, but like in the corporate world. And so I think, what if I like the idea that this is a sort of corporate barbarian, human man, and this is someone who in many respects represents all the cliches of your standard barbarian, except that he is also like very charming and quick to try to kind of schmooze. So I like that. You know, maybe he wears, you know, hide hide loincloth, shirtless, but with a tie and a collar around his neck, regardless. Um, let's say he's big, very big human man. Um, uh, occasionally, uh, you know, it might be fun for him to do a little bit of that, like, caveman voice, except that he's also the guy, um, caveman, who's always trying to schmooze and network. All right, nice. And what's this guy's name? We have to name this guy now. Um, so let's see if he's going to have, a bow tie. I Yeah, a bow tie could work, but I don't know. I kind of like the idea that it's the collar and the like a full necktie that's just down over a bare chest. He could maybe mix it up sometimes, though. Maybe he has a whole collection. He does it, sometimes it's a bow tie mood. His name should be Carlton, says Resonant Moon in the chat. I like it. Carlton, the corporate barbarian. I like it. All right. One down. Okay, so hordes person is basically, it's like the person who manages the loot, right? It's who keeps track of everything that everyone has found, and let's see. So what do they get? Essential functions: manage stores and items, track resources. They can also get proficiency to negotiate prices of goods and services, assess the quality of equipment and treasure, analyze resources in a local area. All that makes sense. And then at rank 1, you get proficiency with jeweler's tools. You have a set of jeweler's tools and an account ledger, up to 5 gold worth of equipment from various options like barrel, basket, block and tackle. Like, okay, you could just get whatever you want of those things, containers or whatever. Let's see. You also get at rank 1, you use your extensive supply network to buy one item found on any table in the mounts and vehicles or trade goods section and have it delivered to your franchise headquarters within 1 day. Oh, nice. Yeah, so whatever, if you could be out in the middle of nowhere and yes, Hordes person would be kind of like Vex. Although in campaign 1 of Critical Role, Grog also carried around the bag of holding an awful lot. I do recall there being a whole incident where he got it into his head that anytime someone wanted something from the bag of holding, they had to give him something in return. Anyway, and so with a successful persuasion check, you can also negotiate a 50% discount. And so, so it's basically someone who's, going to just manage both supplies and also keeping track of whatever loot is recovered. I don't know exactly what brought it to mind, but see, I think something about just the idea of the hordes person conjured the idea that you're carrying around a big sack of whatever the loot is, like if you don't actually have a bag of holding yet, but you've just got your actual supplies and you're just managing, all of this cargo and everything. And so something actually kind of just made me think it would be funny if we had a small character doing that. And maybe, so that, what would that include? It could be, obviously, halfling and gnome, or maybe a goblin or a kobold. What about a kobold? That could be fun. There's also the new race that's part of this acquisitions book, which is called Verdun, which is a little bit like, there's some goblin-like elements to it. And one of the interesting things about them is that they start as a small race, but then when you get to level 5, they grow and they become medium-sized. Which is kind of interesting, but I don't know. I'm suddenly in love though with the idea of a kobold hordes person, just because it plays into the whole draconic horde sort of thing, right? And I like the idea that maybe this is a kobold who is always very excited about adding things to the horde, and it always gets a little irritable and jittery when they have to take anything out of the horde. So jittery little kobold who loves adding things to the franchise horde, but gets irritable and difficult when they need to take things out. All right, so we need a name for this little kobold guy. I don't know. You know what just came to mind is Jerry. I'm not sure where that came from exactly. You know, maybe it just sounds like jittery. But, you know, I kind of like the idea with a setting like this oh, and Resonant Moon says Fitzgerald. So maybe Jerry is the nickname. So it would be maybe a Jerry with a G. You know, Fitzgerald, Jerry. You know, just the idea of having, you know, a lighter tone in this adventure sort of lends itself to names that aren't necessarily in line with what we think of as the standard fantasy tropey names. So, so let's look next. Cartographer. You know, obviously there's some elements of that seem straightforward. Essential functions would be to create and maintain maps of a franchise's journeys, dictate directions. You can add your proficiency bonus when you make an ability check to create or examine maps, search for new paths in the wild, or assess a route for possible dangers. Yeah, stands to reason. And then as rank 1, you gain proficiency with cartographer's tools and your choice of proficiency for vehicles land or vehicles water. That's actually a much bigger deal than you might think, because there's actually very few ways in the standard setup to get those proficiencies. I think like the folk hero background lets you get vehicles land, and then you could also be like a sailor to get vehicles water or whatever. But if you didn't choose one of those specific backgrounds, there's not that many that can give you proficiency in those things, and none of the classes do it out of the gate, I don't think. So, you know, being able to take on this role and get that proficiency is pretty nice. And basically what it means is that you're going to be the driver of whatever vehicle you guys are using. So, oh, you know what I already have in my head is that we based this character on the transporter. Is it Jason Statham character from the movies. And then so also at rank 1, you can requisition a second-hand draft horse and cart, riding horses and ponies, passage on a ship or ferry, and similar transportation. So, you know, given that they have this mobile headquarters already, probably they don't necessarily need that all that often, but certainly in any circumstances where it wouldn't make sense to bring along their headquarters, you know, they could get you know, whatever they need there. But I definitely this guy's name is Statham. Statham. So let's make him. Let's see what. He could be what race could he be? Because I'm also almost still like he could just be like a half elf or something like that. Half elf, basically the transporter. That's really all I need to know. You know, I can roll with that in the moment. Yeah, that one just wrote itself. Boy. Okay, so let's look now at if we're going to have an occultant. What does the occultant do? Um, okay, so essential functions: track kills and assess the value to the franchise of the living and the dead. Interesting. Tracks the creatures and foes that a franchise has bested or killed, weighing them against the deeds that the franchise has achieved. Interesting. Okay, so you gain proficiency bonus to an ability check to intimidate a creature close to death, assess what disease or poison killed a creature, or explain what that dead body is doing under your bed at the inn. Okay, that's interesting. That's interesting because there's not an obvious real life corporate parallel unless you want to just say they're like the fixer, right? I don't know. Let's see. So let's see what else we got here. So, as a rank 1 occultant, you gain proficiency with one of the following: cooks' utensils, leather workers' tools, or weavers' tools. Okay, there's not necessarily anything obvious there. But head office also grants you the use of a toolkit for your chosen proficiency, a merchant's scale, 5 waterproof belt pouches in which to store creature parts or other tools, and a unique item known as an occultant abacus, whose beads resemble tiny skulls. Well, that's fun. So what does the occultant abacus do? Let's look at this. So what it does is read the kill. At rank 1, it not only tracks your franchise's kills, it helps you determine the impact of those kills on the franchise's fate. Over a period of 1 minute, you can study a creature killed by someone in your franchise within the last 24 hours, then grant the character who slew it a d10. Once within the next hour, the character can add the d10 to an attack roll, ability check, or saving throw. If it's not clear who administered the killing blow, you grant it to a random creature involved in the fight. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, so like there's not really an obvious real world parallel to that, but it's maybe we want to imply that it's sort of like the efficiency expert, like, or HR, like someone who is just kind of tracking various metrics for the party in terms of determining performance-based bonuses. Interesting. The idea of someone who is trying to read the whims of fate and determine this, like, okay, well, gosh, it's not, there's not as obvious a resonance there. Oh, yeah, okay, so, yeah, we have once again some excellent suggestions from Resonant Moon in the chat. I'm immediately thinking of Aubrey Plaza's character from Parks and Recreation. Her name was April. Yeah, I love that character, and I absolutely think it would be super fun to have this character be based kind of on that. Certainly, the look that we're getting from this tiefling in the artwork here does certainly conjure Aubrey Plaza's character from Parks and Rec. That's great. I love that. I like the idea that she's sort of the grim, deadpan character, but with a little mischievous glint sometimes. So let's see. We've got such an evocative piece of art there that it's hard to not just look at that. But let's say, what about a lizard folk? And we could have sort of the personality still be very much that sort of grim, deadpan demeanor like Aubrey Plaza's character from from Parks and Rec, but having the lizard folk and having the nature of that role just have them be kind of a very creepy person um, could be very fun. Could be very fun. Yeah, okay. Lizard folk, female, um, uh, kinda like April from Parks and Rec. Um, very creepy, always studying and making notes that nobody else is allowed to read. Um, yeah. Um, Making occasional uh, occasional. Yikes, spelling, man. Oh, I think I had an extra C in there. That's a problem. Appraising um, looks based on inscrutable criteria. Part of what I'm imagining in some of that is like the old western where you'd have the coffin maker character. Who is always like wanting to, like, you have the hero who's going to be in a duel, and then the coffin maker who wants to like measure them for a coffin while they're still alive so they can get started on it, that sort of thing. I think that could be pretty fun. So we could, we've already got Statham there, so we could lean into kind of the inspiration for this character. I feel like April might be too on the nose, but I mean, it could just be Aubrey. Um, or how about just Plaza? Plaza's good. All right. And then last but not least, Documancer. So Documancer, to my mind, just based on the Acquisitions Incorporated material that I've consumed, Documancer feels like the one that's sort of the most obviously iconic of all the roles, because it just deals with all the contracts and stuff and all the paperwork and everything. I mean, that seems like a very important addition to the culture of the game based on this whole pretext, right? Is like, if you're making it much more like a business, then you have to have contracts and paperwork. Yeah, so as a Documancer, essential functions: record information, track job and quest details within the franchise. In addition to other proficiencies, you can add your proficiency bonus to an ability check to organize lore, analyze official or arcane documents, or convey a legally binding point of view. Yes, very fun. Very fun. So what else do we get? Proficiency with calligrapher supplies. Also grants you the use of, you not only proficiency, but a set of calligrapher supplies. A documancy satchel for your supplies. Ledger, sealing wax, copper and silver leaf. A documancer seal of limited authority. Seal of limited authority, and a scroll case. And then also you at Gift of Words at rank 1, you are semi-fluent in the fluent in the semi-arcane language of Documancy. This knowledge grants you advantage on intelligence checks to decipher codes or similar scripts. Might also provide you with hints whenever you try to solve a puzzle or decipher clues involving writing. Very nice. So what does this Documancy satchel do? Okay, so interesting. I guess at rank 1 it doesn't do anything. It's just a satchel. But at rank 2, it allows you to magically send and receive documents to and from head office through a special pouch. Very cool, although I wonder if that seems like it steps on the Secretarian's feature a little bit. But actually, we only looked at the rank 1 Secretarian feature. Maybe that, they don't, maybe they diverge. So You can also produce pre-written and signature-ready contracts at your request. That's pretty great. That's pretty great. Yeah, so that's fun. So basically, the whoever's the documancer is obviously the one that's most involved with the franchise paperwork, right? Now, to some extent, there's always going to be a major domo who can do some of that stuff, but the major domo stays with the headquarters, doesn't go out on adventures. And so the documancer would be the one involved with that. So if we're wanting to lean into being funny, we can either have it be it's funny because of how into paperwork this character is, or it could be funny that they are actually like the opposite. Like they really hate it and they hate that they've been assigned to this role, but someone had to do it. And, so it could just be, for example, that they hate it, but just nobody else wanted to do it. And so they kind of got bullied into it by all the others. That could be funny too. And so, yes, Josephine or Liliana from Dragon Age for sure would be kind of falls into that role to some extent. Certainly, Josephine, I think, in the context of Dragon Age, is more like the major domo because she doesn't go out on the adventures, but she's performing a vital role back at the headquarters. So let's see. Well, let's see. What have we got already? We got a big human man, jittery little kobold, um, male half elf. And we've only got one female and lizard folk so far. So let's, you know what? How about this for fun? I like the idea that this whole other franchise is kind of obnoxious, but wouldn't it be kind of fun to have at least one of the people be the, like, maybe just sort of a shy, sweet, nice girl, just like, imagine her with with bangs and big round glasses, and she's very friendly and kind, but kind of shy, and the big personalities of her teammates kind of overwhelm her sometimes, but she's like actually nice, as just a little bit of a different flavor to go with the ridiculousness of the other characters. And so we could definitely imagine then that she kind of falls into both of those archetypes I suggested. Like maybe she actually does kind of like the documancy stuff, but it could also be that she was the default for that because everyone else just kind of makes her do whatever they don't want to do. Betty from Ugly Betty. I actually haven't watched that show, so but I mean, I know like what she looks like from the commercials, I guess, and so yeah, it could be like that, but I don't really know the character very well. But yeah, let's say shy, kind. Let's see, what race should she be? She could be. I don't know. She could just be another human. There's no reason not to have lots of humans. It's interesting, I think, in these games because you get so many different options that I think people tend to want to avoid. They sometimes avoid making human characters just because it doesn't seem to play into like the escapist whole narrative. Yeah. Yeah. So let's just have her be human. Human. Big round glasses, bangs, maybe a little bit chunky. Um, uh, but she is the nice, sweet contrast to her obnoxious coworkers. Then she could just have, everyone else has kind of got the one-word names. I don't know if it needs to contrast, although, just in terms of so many different possible, characters that they're going to have to meet. There's already so many NPCs. We don't need to make it overly complicated by giving them fancy names. Um, Plus, she seems like a non-pretentious sort, right? So she's gonna be um, uh, how about just Agatha? Yeah. So there's only one. So let's also pick a major domo for them. But I'm thinking with so many big personalities and kind of have how we've already got it, I think that it would be nice to have their major domo be almost kind of a non-entity, like not almost like having that character be. Oh yeah, what if their major domo is like the constructs, the clockwork constructs that they have that carry the litter. Maybe they've got a major domo construct built into the headquarters that functions like one of those fortune telling vending machines. I like that. Um, and the amazing Presto. But not much of a real character there. But so the one thing that we have to build into this just a little bit is that I don't anticipate building these characters into combat. Like that's not the role that I'm wanting them to fulfill. But it wouldn't hurt to have a basic concept of what each of them is going to be. So I think if we want to talk about some of the basic, humanoid enemy types, I think, Agatha probably would be, we have to make them approximately equivalent to what the characters would be at that level, right? So, let's see. So Agatha, I'm thinking like I was going to say maybe priest, but priest might be too high. A CR. Challenge rating 2. Okay. I was actually maybe thinking like mage, but mage is a little too powerful. What about acolyte? What does an acolyte can do? So that's a 1/4. So that's maybe that's too low. So there's an apprentice or something. Apprentice wizard. No, that's also 1/4. What is mage? Well, you know what? Here, let's do this. Let's use the. We got the monsters search here. We're going to use humanoid filter, and then filter. Let's see what we get that's between CR1 and CR3. All right, so obviously we've got some of these are specific characters from various adventures. Let's see, it could be like a bard. Just what we're looking for is just a basic, simple enemy type that I can use for stats if it ever came to combat. Cult fanatic. Oh, why are these not sorted better? Yeah, there we go. Yeah, I wish I could filter out just like the specific characters like that. Let's see. I think see the druid character. Yeah, the druid, like the stat block here, doesn't turn into animals. Um, but I definitely see Agatha as more like an arcane type. Mm, all right. Yeah, there's a this whole approach was. Uh, oh, you know what? You know what? Priest is just a CR2. We're going to use priest stats. Okay. So occultant sounds like we want to use like occultist, right? Because that just seems on brand. Black Earth cultist. Sure. Yeah. And use this stone club. Has some basic spells. Yeah, definitely. Black Earth cultist stats. And like I said, I'm not necessarily expecting to roll these characters into combat. Mostly what they exist to do is to give the party a little bit of an extra motivation, give some silliness, to get to nudge them to wanting to advance a little bit more, just to show those jerks over at that other branch. Oh, we'll have to decide actually what. We have a few more decisions to make once we have the rest of this. Okay, so Statham going to be this. He's going to be more like a bandit captain. Yeah, bandit captain for sure. All right, and then little Jerry there. Let's see. What do we have that's also in that 2 range? Let's just go ahead and have them all be 2 if I can. See, Berserker definitely. Carlton can be Berserker. Berserker with an S? Really? Okay. Oh, well, Evernote doesn't like that either. All right, well, so what do we get for Jerry, though? Cult Fanatic? What does Cult Fanatic do differently than the other one? It seems like it's pretty similar. Let's see. You know what? I think actually, you know what, let me, I think there might be a Kobold thing that I could already just use the stats for. Kobold Dragon Shield, what rating is that? A 1? Yeah, and then there's a Scale Sorcerer, which is also a 1. Let's just make them a Dragon Shield. Alright, good deal. And we could actually flavor it because the whole bit with the Dragon Shield is that they have, like they use a shield, and we could flavor that instead of it being an actual shield. It's like the sack, the Horde sack. All right, great. So now we've got basic characters, stats, what their headquarters is like. So the last thing we have to do, fast franchise generator is some of these things. So we're not necessarily going to use the ones that they're suggesting here, but just so that we have, um, more things to choose from. And, it occurs to me one of the other things that that we want to keep in mind is that because this other franchise also works for Acquisitions Incorporated, it's theoretically possible that if the party can actually sort of work them in the right way, you could actually end up with having them be like useful and not really competition. Like, what if they actually help find out some useful information, right? You know, sort of make use of them, like you pay them for the use of their resources so that like they get a profit, but you get the information you need, that sort of thing. We'll see how they feel about that. But so for this fast franchise generator, what do they suggest that we decide? It would be like a logo or livery, headquarters location, headquarters quirks. We definitely need to assign a headquarters quirk to this thing. So what are the ones that they suggest here? One staircase leads to two different places somehow. Any kettle used in the kitchen screams when it boils. Every chair has one leg slightly shorter than the others. Every stairwell has an illusion of one additional step at the top. That's pretty funny. A nest in the attic, a big nest, like really big. Every Friday, the color of the walls changes to a different festive theme. The building was previously owned by a franchise rival, and the place is filled with their marketing materials. Space inside the headquarters is clearly a room, but which has no doors. Yeah, I don't think any of those perfectly fit the headquarters that we've designed here. But let's think of something that, like, if you had a big RV, what would be something that could be sort of really weird and slightly inconvenient about it? Let's see. So this is a big fancy like RV sized litter carried by little clockwork people. And then what if just like, because we want something that's not really a big mechanical difference, but is just like of note, you know, or slightly inconvenient. And it could be just that. Okay, how about this? Sometimes the constructs start singing a song in a language nobody knows. And no one knows how to make them stop or start. Knows why or how to control it. That's fine. All right, and so we need this franchise to have a name and like the livery. So the examples that they have here. All right, well, thank you for joining Resonant Moon. I very much appreciated your suggestions. It's going to be a lot of fun to play in the adventure later. So, but in the meantime, last but not least here, let's look at these franchise logos or livery. And so they have the words green flan in Elvish, symbol of Asmodeus, the name of the franchise's dead founder elaborately engraved, a beholder's central eye, silhouette of a Catoblepas. That's a enemy type, I think. Yeah. How is that pronounced? Oh, yikes, look at that thing.
Catoblepus.
Catoblepus? All right. Okay, Catoblepus, apparently. 3 werewolves howling at the moon. Pretty good. Lathander is our co-pilot. A winking Jim Dark Magic. A snaking piece of barbed wire. The franchise's business number. Let's think of something that fits along with this sort of pseudo-glamorous decoration theme. It could be let's see, it could be like see, like one of the things I'm thinking is like a big like a very elaborately looked like an image of a diamond ring with just a ridiculously large diamond on it. Because of course, like, it's easy to have a painting of a diamond ring with a giant diamond on it, right? And they could just they could say they could be um, so it, like the names of these franchises, the some of the other franchises that have been in there have been like the order of this and the order of that. So this one could be uh, um, uh, uh, Diamond Splendor, no, or uh, hmm, let's see, Diamond Splendor, or hmm. A sigil that's a magical version of a QR code. Oh, that's kind of fun. Yeah, okay. I actually kind of love that, because what I could imagine for it is that it's what it's like is to anyone who doesn't know specifically how to read it magically, it just looks like a bunch of gobbledygook, and they're constantly having to explain to people how cool it actually is. I think that's great. Um, yeah, so like, if you know the specific magical cantrip that lets you read it, it produces this really cool illusion of the great big diamond ring with like a little animated logo that says diamond quality or something like that. But you need to know the cantrip to make it work, and so they're constantly having to just explain to people. Yeah, please just look through the scrying key. It'll make perfect sense. No, we don't sell the scrying keys. We can't. You can't keep that one. We need it. Yeah, and so to just have, to be really insistent that no, this is actually very cool. You just don't understand, and you get the feeling that they're really tired of having that conversation. I love that. That's fun. Okay, so sigil is a nonsense bull, like a QR code that, when viewed with the scrying key, is a cool illusion of a big diamond ring, but is illegible otherwise. And uh, uh, let's say this is they're the Order of the Faceted Diamond. I feel like maybe we can do better than that. So let's think again a little bit about what we've got here. So we've got a presentation designed to look more glamorous than they can actually back up right now. It's a little bit gaudy and ostentatious, but with an intent towards being luxurious and glamorous, and they're hoping to actually build in that direction for real, and to some extent are going to be we're the fast diamonds. That's facet diamonds, right? Fastest diamonds. Okay. Yeah, that's kind of fun. Although I feel like they would know which one it is. Or what if they're like, what if they don't agree on what it is? And because it's like, the font is weird. Even when you look with the scrying key, like, the font is weird for that page. Yeah. Okay, that's kind of fun. Um, uh, Even with the key, the font is strange with the F, with the middle word. Group cannot agree whether they are the fast diamonds, the faceted diamonds, or the fastest diamonds. I feel like we can get one more that's a little bit more different than fast and fastest. Fasting. That one doesn't necessarily play as well. Let's see. Farthest. Fastest, farthest, faceted. No, it doesn't sound the same as much, right? It's fattest, fattest. There you go. It's got to be that, right? You know, it's like, because look, it's a great big diamond on there. It's the fattest diamond. It's like, no, it's faceted diamond because of the purity of the cut. You can see how, sophisticated the shaping is. Is like, no, we're the fastest diamonds because we get there and get the job done. That's our mobile headquarters, and they don't agree. That's kind of fun. They all kind of sound similar too, so that kind of works. I don't know if I want to like. Are people going to be sensitive about the word fattest? I hope not. I don't want that to be an issue. Maybe better not to push it. What else could it be? Fastened diamonds. Flattest? No. Yeah, let's see. Glamist. Faceted. Flashing diamonds. Flashist. Yeah, the flashist could be fun if it's the last one and the others are arguing. It's like, flashist isn't even a word. That would be maybe Jerry the Kobold that would be his suggestion. That could be fun. I might think on that a little bit. There's time still, so maybe I'll consider that. And I think probably the faceted diamonds is probably the one that's official on the paperwork, is my guess. But maybe they're not in agreement about what it actually is. I'm just thinking about if someone else was going to refer to them. Yeah. Faceted, fastest, flashest. Yeah, I like that. Okay. And, I'll obviously might evolve over the coming weeks. But in the meantime, so let's just review. So we've got, we've got the major domo, which is just like one of those fortune-telling vending machines, with it's just the upper half of like a mannequin that kind of can move its mouth sort of and spit out little cards and move its hands and everything to like do its office manager sort of things. We've got, Carlton, the corporate barbarian, schmoozy business guy with no shirt, secretarian rather. Jerry, the jittery little kobold hordes person. Statham, the transporter of the of cartography. Plaza, the creepy lizard folk female occultant. Agatha, the shy, kind, nerdy human girl documancer. And then they travel around in a big gaudy, gold painted litter that is carried aloft by little clockwork constructs that don't actually detach or do anything other than carry it. But it looks very fancy. It's just not actually necessarily all that useful for anything other than just carrying the vehicle around. Yeah, all right. I like all that. Fun. Okay, so I think I'm going to probably leave it there for tonight. But be sure, if you are, if any of this sounds fun to you, I hope that you'll check out the link that I've got up at the top of the screen, extralife.org/participant/Christiana-Ellis. That's where you can find the campaign page for my effort here. It's all a great cause. Extra Life benefits children's hospitals, and on November 2nd and 3rd this year, I'm going to be running the Acquisitions Incorporated adventure, Orrery of the Wanderer. And we're going to be running 24 hours of Dungeons and Dragons over 2 days, 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. on Saturday and Sunday. It's going to be a blast, and it's a great cause, so I hope you'll consider donating. And in the meantime, got a lot more prep to do, but that's all for the stream tonight. So thanks, everybody.